Hi, I'm Brian Amrine with Value Driven Analytics, and for those of you who've been watching the channel for a while, you know how big of a fan I am of analytics efficiency. We have a whole video dedicated to that topic. But today, we're about to take it to the next level. That's right, today we're going to be talking about generating and troubleshooting code in Chat GPT. So let's head over to Chat GPT now. Well, here we are in Chat GPT, and our use case today is asking Chat GPT to write some Python code that can generate sample data for us. Now, ChatGPT can generate and troubleshoot all kinds of coding languages, but we'll use Python as an example today. And you would be surprised how often the need to generate sample data comes up, especially as an analytics consultant. You might want to build a model, you might want to build an interactive visualization dashboard to represent some data that you expect to get eventually, but that you don't have currently. So we're going to see today if we can efficiently ask ChatGPT to generate some sample data for us, maybe similar to what we expect to receive. So let's ask ChatGPT to create that code for us. Please create some Python code that will generate a pandas data frame. So a pandas data frame is a very convenient way to represent a data table in Python. Pandas has a lot of data manipulation functions that you can then apply to that pandas data frame or table. So we'll want our output to be a pandas data frame, and we want that pandas data frame to represent sales for a golf company. We'll say that represents, let's do unit sales for a golf company. And we want it to be split out by a few things. So if we're creating an interactive visualization, we can maybe create some filters and some different charts that break it out by different dimensions. So we'll say by maybe day, and we can aggregate up from there. Perhaps by customer. Now we don't, for sample data, we don't want to list out a whole bunch of names ourselves. So maybe we'll say can make up some names and product. Same thing, maybe we just want to have ChatGPT generate some products for us. So can make up some products. So that alone should work, but when you think about creating sample data, if we just create sample data, it could end up being the same values for every row, which wouldn't be very interesting when we visualize it. We probably want some trend in there, but also some trend that's inconsistent, which is very representative of reality often, that trends change over time. So let's say we want the data, the sales to grow by 5% on average with some variance. And I should clarify 5% each year on average. Probably need to give it a time period too. Time period is 2000 to 2023. I think that should be enough information to generate some good sample data. If it's not, we can always ask for some clarification and some additional requests later on. ChatGPT is good about that, very iterative sometimes. You look at the final product, if it's not exactly what you had in mind, you just give ChatGPT that feedback, and usually it's able to incorporate it the second time, hopefully. Oh boy, it's gone to town here. We have got some sample code. Looks like it's not quite done yet. Very nice. Definitely looks like Python. We've got our pandas, numpy, datetime. These are standard packages that should be installed by default if you've downloaded Anaconda. Really popular packages here. Looks like it might be done here. Okay, saying we need to make sure we have these installed. Again, I think these probably are already installed if you've installed Anaconda to download Python. Well, the next step is to actually try it out here. I'm excited to see if it actually does what we asked it to do. So let's launch Anaconda in order to figure that out. Go ahead and click on my Anaconda shortcut here. If you have any questions about how to download Anaconda or Python, please check out our Python training video. Right, here we are in Jupyter. It's, of course, command line, which then opens up Jupyter in our browser. So let's navigate to a folder where we want to create a new Jupyter notebook that we can run our sample code in and see how it does. Okay, I've navigated to this Chat GPT coding folder that I'm going to use. And to create a new notebook, I'm just going to click on New Python 3. It's going to launch a new Jupyter notebook in the browser here. I'll call this Generating Sample Data. That's what name I'll give to my notebook. You can call it whatever you'd like if you are following along, which is generally recommended. Now they do have this convenient button here, copy code, very convenient. Now I would recommend, feel free to read the rest of the syntax around it, probably give some context to what it's doing. But for now, I'm just gonna copy this over. I see that we import packages at the top. Great job, Chat GPT. I mean, you need to import them in order to use them, so they need to be at the top. So I did that right. Um, Defining some parameters at the top. I like that. I like that because if I decide that I want this to be based on, well, maybe I wanted to start at 1998 instead, now I can just update it there at the top of my code. That's a good coding practice as well. And you can also see that ChatGPT is including some comments here. Wow, that's very convenient. That's a good coding practice as well. So we define the time period. We generate a list of dates within the time period. It's using the very convenient Pandas date range function, and you just feed it a start date, an end date, a frequency, and it's going to generate a list of dates. Okay, great use of the date range function, ChatGPT. I like it. And look at that, it created some customers for us. Looks like we've got about 5 customers. Should be enough for this code. I guess if we wanted more customers, we could have been more specific in our ChatGPT prompt. And then from a products perspective, it looks like it's generated 5 different products. And look at that, those are golf products. I told you it was a golf company. It generated some sample products that are golf products. Really cool. All right, then it's generating a sample list, a starting list here of data. All right, let's see where it goes from there. Growth parameters, base sales 10. Ooh, even the starting value, it is initialized at 10 in this case. So if we want it to be 100 instead, we can update that. We can even change our annual growth rate. Okay, I'll do 6%. It's all parameterized. Now, personally for me, I would probably set all of my parameters toward the top. So I'm gonna maybe move these parameters up. That's my personal preference. I think that's generally a good preference. In fact, even the customers and products are kind of parameters in a way, so I might set those up here as well. And then this is really where you start to use those parameters to generate the date range to start off with. So that's just personal preference, but I'm sure not too bad to have them down there like they were originally. Generate sales data. Okay, it looks like this is probably where the really meat of the work happens. So it's looping through every date in the date range. So it created this date range table here, and it's looping through every date. It's grabbing the year. It's figuring out what the growth factor is for that year. 1 plus the growth rate, so 1.06 for instance, since we updated it, the annual growth rate to be 1.06. And then it's using, it looks like this is the raised to whatever year minus 2000 is. It's going to raise it to however many years it's been since our starting year, 2000. Okay, I like it. Perfect. We get a growth factor. Then it's looping through customer and customers, looping through all 5 customers. And within that, within each day, within each customer, within each product, it is looping through all those combinations, and it's creating this sales. It looks like this is just a simple variable, a numeric variable that starts with our base sales, in our case 100, multiplies by the growth factor, which depends on what year it is, and then multiplies that by 1 plus, and it's using a random uniform. Ah, interesting. Now it's referencing a variance field here. Oh, even variance is parameterized. Wow, really cool. So this can be up to, it looks like it could be as low as negative zero point 0.2 and as high as zero point 0.2. And then it's going to add that to 1. So really what it'll end up being is zero point 0.8 to 1.2 if we keep the variance at 0.2 here. So it's going to take our starting default sales that if we didn't have this variance factor, it'd just be, for the first year, it'd be 100. And then after that, it'd be 106 because we have a growth factor of 6% here. But then it's going to take that number, and that's going to be the value for each date, customer, product combination. And it's going to multiply it by a kind of a random number between 0.8 and 1.2 to give it some variance. Yeah, I like that. That's clever. And then it's going to append that to our data object here. Here, and notice it does round it, which is good as well since we want it to be unit sales. It wouldn't make sense to have any decimals there. Wow, that is cool. And then it creates the data frame. Okay, so at this point, it takes the data that's been put into this object and it turns it into a data frame in this step. And then it's going to print it. It seems like this could work. All right, let's go ahead and run this and just see what happens. That was quick. All right, so it printed it. I'm a fan of the HTML output for Pandas data frame, so I'm going to change this print to a display instead. Let's just see what that looks like. Very good. Got my date, customer, product by unit sales. I wonder how many rows this actually created. Let's take a look at that. So this shows us the first 5 rows. We're using the dot head function. But what if we use the length function, apply it to the pandas data frame, we've called it df here. See how many rows it has. 237,400 rows in a matter of seconds. Wow. Uh, I mean, how many rows should it have? I guess we can figure that out here. Should have 1 row per date, customer, product combination. So how many dates would there be? We updated the starting date to be 1998 through 2023. That would be 26 years times 365 days, leap year every 4 years. Now, when it occurs will depend on the range of the years, so we'll just aim to get close here because the leap years could shift around. And then multiplied by the number of customers, which we saw Chat GPT created 5 names and 5 products as well. So let's see if this matches the number of rows that were actually in the table. 237,412.5. That's pretty close. I think the difference is just the timing of the leap years. Wow, that is incredible. I I spent about 3 hours creating this script to generate sample data just a few months ago. And ChatGPT goes and writes this code in about 2 minutes. You gotta be kidding me. I can't believe I spent 3 hours writing this code that ChatGPT could have written for me. I'm sorry. I get really frustrated when I waste time. I'm, I'll be right back. I'm sorry. Wow. Okay. I'm doing a little better now. Just man, I just really don't like wasting time, and it's just how many hours have I wasted when I could have just gotten ChatGPT to write it for me? I mean, I guess it wasn't a complete waste of time. I probably build up a analytical thought process a little bit more by working through it, but man, oh boy. This is a big time saver right here. So we've seen how ChatGPT can write code that might take us hours in just a matter of minutes, like 1 minute pretty much. Let's see if it can help us troubleshoot. So we need some errors here. Fortunately, in this case, the ChatGPT code didn't give us any errors. We made some adjustments to it based on some preferences of like where the parameters would go, but it looks really good. So let's generate an error. Let's say I'm maybe using a variable called x and a variable called y, and I'm going to multiply them together. Now, the reason this should throw an error is because we have not set x or y as variables so far, and let's just see what happens. Okay, it says name error, name x is not defined. Well, let's just say I'm new to Python and I'm like, well, I don't know what that means. What does it mean that x is not defined? Let's take this error, I'll just take the whole thing and import it over to ChatGPT and see if it can give us some more information about it. I just got this error, and then I'll feed this. Now, we should probably actually give it the code itself as well. So let me port that over as well. I was running this code and just got this error. And it doesn't have to be formatted or anything fancy like that. We're just porting the code over. The error message you have encountered, and then it gives us the error, repeats it like it did before. It just restates the problem. Does not recognize the variable x at the time you are trying to use it. This typically happens for one of several reasons. Okay, so maybe it's not straightforward as an answer as we think it could be. The variable x has not been defined yet. Before you perform an operation with a variable like x, you need to define it and assign it a value. For example, x equals 5. Love the examples. Examples always make things a little bit easier. Typographical error and on and on. Wow, it actually has given us an example of defining the variables. So if we didn't even know how to do that, we've got sample code to do that now. And let's just copy it. We'll paste it below here and see if this code that ChatGPT gave us would actually work. And it does. You know, of course, we look at this from here and say, oh, yeah, I need to set those variables. I actually wanted X to be 20. We can update it from there. How easy was that? I mean, ChatGPT just gave us the updated code to what we needed to run. It doesn't just tell us why we got that error, but it actually updates our code for us in a lot of cases. What an efficiency booster. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on generating and troubleshooting code with ChatGPT. Remember, Python is just an example. ChatGPT can be used for all kinds of coding platforms. Maybe consider using it to troubleshoot and write SQL code as well. And I'm sorry for getting so upset earlier. I just think about all the time I could have saved. I'm still not over it. But what's done is done. If you like this video, please consider liking it for me. And if you'd like to see more ChatGPT videos like this one that can help you do more and do it quicker, please consider subscribing. We've got all kinds of analytics training videos and leadership training videos as well. Finally, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a comment on the video, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.